Hello, it is Jack Gill, and welcome to Redmen Academy. We've paused our series of Premier League youngsters to watch at the minute. We'll recommence that tomorrow for part three. If you want to watch the other two parts, go over and watch them now. But first of all, you might want to watch this video. Me and James are going to cover how we think the Premier League should finish and how the Premier League will finish if it plays all 38 games in our opinions. We've used a website to do this. It's called worldfootball.net. You can calculate the rest of the Premier League season. It means you have to predict the scores of every Premier League game from now until the end of the season, really, and then it works out the points tally and comes up with a league table for you. Mine and James's are quite contrasting in certain ways, but there's also similarities. We'll go through that in a moment. But the reason that's brought us to doing this video today is because there's been a lot more news and developments in the last few days, James, about different ways the Premier League season can be finished. The best way I've seen is obviously if this pandemic is still going on. There are 13 pitches at St George's Park. There's a hotel at St George's Park as well. It may be an option to finish the season at St George's Park. But thinking of everything going on at the moment in the world, James, we didn't really cover this the other day in the coronavirus video, but what do you think is the best way to finish the Premier League season? Because as the days go on, it seems less likely that it'll be finished normally with fans in the ground. And you know what I mean?
Because even once this lockdown's over, we're not going to be able to go back to normal straight away. It's still going to be about, I say, 3 months after that, where we're going to have to sort of be more cautious of what we're doing and our responsibilities, like gathering in large groups isn't going to be advisable. So even though you might be able to go out and still go to the shops and stuff, but maybe go out for food, going to a football match is going to be out of the question when there's 50,000 people there. It's probably wouldn't be the best thing to do, having that many people in such a short space. So behind closed doors does make sense, and as long as everyone can still watch their teams and you aren't missing out, I don't think it'll make a huge difference. It'll just be a sort of different experience, won't it?
I think one of the reasons is obviously because if you think of the amount of people still needed behind closed doors, you still need the media there. If they want to start television every single game, then there'll be more television companies at games. You need obviously police as well, medical staff. So do you still think behind closed doors is a genuine possibility or not? I personally think obviously finishing the season behind the closed doors is the most likely thing that will happen. But you think it's the best thing? Do you think some clubs will obviously be angry at that decision?
It's a tricky one because obviously it's probably the most straightforward solution and the only solution that really makes sense within the sort of next 6 months. Otherwise, you're looking at probably starting the season in September, best case scenario, once it's considered safe enough. But then you still need paramedics who are going to have an even more important job in June time. That's probably when it's going to peak, or hopefully at least flatten out. So it's hard because I know obviously teams have medics, teams have their own sort of medical team, but you still need paramedics, you still need doctors there, you still need police on standby. So it's just finding sort of a solution that everyone can agree to and won't impact sort of the public services who are going to be, stretched thin, really, and they already are as it is.
Absolutely. I think whatever happens from this situation, right now, you're not going to impress everybody with whatever decision is going to be made. You're going to annoy a few people, and I think the Premier League obviously will be thinking now they have to do the thing that annoys the least amount of people, and that's why as the days go on, I get less hopeful that the season will be finished. However, you can only hope and pray because the amount of legal battles this will cause if you cancel the season, there'll be loads of them. So it will be very interesting to see what happens from here on in. But as you said in the video the other day, there are obviously a lot more important things than football right now, and I think it will take a long time before the final decision is announced. I think we probably won't hear that till May, June time, whatever is going to happen with the rest of the Premier League season. However, let's put that all to the back of our minds for now, and let's think about if the Premier League season is to be finished, 38 games are going to be played, how me and James would see the season ending. So James has got the Premier League table as it stands at the minute up. James, obviously with Liverpool have been in control for most of the season, top of the league, haven't they? And the real battles this season have been that battle for fourth place and the relegation battle.
Yeah, I mean, what I've got here, I've got my predictions. The top six is exactly the same, which I wasn't expecting when I was filling out the results. I thought there'd be a few upsets, but the top six doesn't change at all. And Sheffield dropped down to ninth in mine from seventh place, just because I'm not too sure if they can go the whole season. They've had an amazing year as it is, and I'm not sure if they've got it in them to go the whole length. They've got a couple of injuries picked up. Whether that'll clear up before football resumes, I'm not too sure. But I mean, finishing ninth in your first Premier League season back isn't, any reason to slight them at all.
You see, I was going through these fixtures, and it's like Wolves. Wolves have a lot of fixtures where they're tough fixtures on paper, and Wolves always seem to do all right in those sort of fixtures.
Exactly, yeah.
And I've ended up with Wolves in fourth. My top six is my top 10 is quite bizarre. I've got the top four being Liverpool, Man City, Leicester, and Wolves. Got Chelsea fifth, Sheffield United sixth, and then Tottenham seventh, Man United eighth, Arsenal ninth, and Everton 10th. So it's a very, very bizarre that I didn't expect that when I was filling out the results. But I think it's gonna be one of those now where whatever happens, if this season is finished, Tottenham are going to have their first team back. United are going to have Paul Pogba back. Chelsea are going to have all their first team players that were out injured back. Kante might even be back fit. You're going to have a very different situation to what we saw from before all of this. And you were worrying about players being out for the rest of the season, but actually by the time they play the next game of football in the same league season, they might be back fit again. Ricardo Pereira for Leicester did his ACL, I think, but he might be back ready for his next available game of football. It's a very bizarre situation we're in at the moment, and it was very difficult predicting this season, of course, and how it's going to finish based on that. James, how many points did you have Liverpool on for the end of the season?
Okay, and I tried not to be biased. I did let us drop a few points. We're on 105 points. We drew 2 games to Chelsea and City because I hate playing Chelsea. I think they're a nightmare to play against. I don't fancy our chances getting a win there, especially after the League Cup game. And then City, I'd like to say we beat them, but they're still a very good side, despite obviously dropping as many points as they have this season.
I had 104. I had drawing 2 and losing 2. I had us losing to City.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it'd be one of them where I had us winning the title at Palace. So I just had it down as one of them where, we've already won the title. We've had our guard of honour. We've had a bit of a crazy week and our foot's off the gas a bit. And then the draw I had against Aston Villa because, last time they were in the Premier League, they were our bogey team. They're going to be a team fighting. We struggled against them at Villa Park. And we'd have already won the league by then. But it's incredibly difficult again because obviously we're going through these, we're being very biased, but actually Liverpool may be likely to drop a lot more points.
Yeah.
Because we're coming back from obviously a global pandemic. You don't know how short the pre-season is going to be between this season when we manage to finish it and next season. And you just don't know what's going to happen right now. We're not in any other competitions, so you don't know whether Jurgen Klopp's just going to play his first team and try and get as many points as possible. You don't know whether we'll be saving ourselves for next season as a short pre-season. You just don't know at the moment, and it's a very difficult decision. So you had United finishing 5th then. So
United 5th place, and I did put them down for they dropped quite a few points in mine, but they are only 2 points off 4th. And obviously, if City receive the ban from Europe, United obviously will get that Champions League place, and then Wolves will get 5th place. When you look at it like that.
How many points did you have Chelsea finishing on then in 4th?
69 points.
Okay, I had Wolves in 4th on 66 points.
Okay.
So and then Chelsea and Sheffield United both on 61 points. We'll try and get the graphics up if we can of these, of course. And now to the relegation battle, James. Obviously, it's very, very close down there. And when I was going through these fixtures, there's a few teams that have very, very difficult run-ins. There's some teams that I can see getting some key points in key fixtures down there, and others that I think will miss out. And I've ended up with a bit of a mad situation at the bottom of the table. And if it finishes like this, it will be very, very bonkers. I've got Norwich down and out on 22 points.
Yeah.
And then I've got Bournemouth in 19th on 37 points with a goal difference of negative 23.
Mm-hmm.
I have Aston Villa in 18th on 37 points with a goal difference of negative 22. And I have West Ham in 17th with 37 points, exactly the same as Villa and Bournemouth, but with a goal difference of negative 16. And they'll stay up on goal difference. And the key thing there, of course, is that they play Villa on the final day, which I put as a draw. So it looks very interesting like that, doesn't it, James?
Yeah. Mine's position-wise not too different to how it is now. I've still got Norwich, Villa, and Bournemouth, but I hadn't actually looked in the points until now, and I've only predicted Norwich to gain 3 points before the end of the season. Aston Villa won't gain a single point, which was probably a mistake looking back. I was just doing it game by game, and apparently they've lost every single game. And then Bournemouth have drawn 2 in their last 9 games, which I do feel a bit harsh about now. But when you look at their fixtures week on week, neither of them look like none of them really at that bottom 3 look like they're going to pick up many points at all.
No.
And you'd assume they'd pick up more, but when you look at them game by game, it's not looking good for them at all. But at least Norwich pick up the most points out of all 3 of them. But I mean, you can't really, it's not much better at all. They only gain 3 points and they still go down.
The thing I've got is I've had Brighton and Watford shoot above Newcastle and Southampton. And the thing I thought of that is, just teams that are fighting, they get in a good rhythm, they end up surviving, and then they end up in a really good run of form and picking up even more points. Whereas Southampton and Newcastle are probably looking at things now. They're pretty much safe on paper and may get in a bit of a bad run of form. So I've got Newcastle in the end only surviving by a point. And Southampton surviving by 3 points, the same as Watford and Brighton. So, I think it's going to be very close down there at the bottom of the season. We've seen already, I think Brighton have played really good football this season, but they're just struggling to pick up points, and they've ended up fighting down there, really. Bournemouth haven't had the best season, but they've had a lot of injuries. Villa have picked up some key points, but, they've also been hammered here and there and very sloppy at times. So it's going to be an interesting end of the season, and hopefully we manage to get it finished, James. So how did your bottom half end up? Who did you end up having just surviving?
I had West Ham on 32 points, and if I'm being honest, I feel like West Ham might drop down this season. I'm fancying Bournemouth to maybe have a bit of an upset, but going by this, they are literally just 3 points ahead, but with a vastly superior goal difference of, still minus 22, nothing to brag about, but it's better than Bournemouth's minus 31. Everton was a surprise shock for me, though. I've got Everton shooting up to 10th place.
Yeah, I've got them in 10th.
Gaining 16 points in their last 9 games, which is pretty good considering, they've had quite a turbulent season.
Yeah, I've got them in 10th on 49 points. Yeah.
Not too bad. That's
So,
all right.
If we weren't going to be predicting, obviously, the season on a website, if we were going to just look at it and pick our top 4s and our teams to go down now, and obviously 5th spot as well, who would you say? So obviously, let's put these fixtures aside a second, looking at it on paper in terms of, form and everything, looking at this current league table in mind and putting the fixtures to a side. Let's start with top 4. What would your top 4 be, James?
Well, obviously, us, City, Leicester. I think Leicester have got enough in them to keep that 3rd place. They fully deserve it. And then I quite fancy Wolves to have a sort of maybe resurgence towards the end of the season, to be honest. I know, obviously, on our predictions, you've got them, I haven't. But looking at them, they are a very good side. They're in some decent form. And they've drawn 3 and won 2 in their last 5 games. But, they do well in these high-pressure games where people sort of write them off. And yet they've got a very good side, haven't they? They've got a very versatile team.
Absolutely. And, I'd say exactly the same. In terms of my top 5, I think that is how it will finish. I was very impressed that it ended up being like that after calculating the fixtures as well. I think, Wolves have had it difficult this season. They've played a lot of football, and it's whether this stoppage actually helps them or whether it has a negative effect on them, because it might take them a while to get started again. They may have been enjoying being in a good flow of playing a lot of games and they may have got around how to deal with that. But it may also happen that the Europa League and Champions League don't continue, and therefore Wolves obviously just have the Premier League to go to look towards, and they think, you know what, we're really going to go for it and try and push for that top four. As I say, Wolves have a lot of fixtures where they're playing teams up and around there, like they've still got United and Chelsea to play. So, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Wolves. I had Leicester slipping up and dropping quite a few points, but I still think they've done enough to stay in that top four. I really do. As I say, there's so many key fixtures between the likes of Wolves, Chelsea, Sheffield United, Tottenham United. I think Leicester have done enough to stay up there. And yeah, that's what my prediction for the top five will be. What about going down? What do you think? Looking at it without the fixtures, the three that you've got down there are obviously the exact same three as me. You've got Norwich, Bournemouth, and Villa. It's very hard to see those three changing. For me personally, I think West Ham are going to drop into it.
Why?
Either Villa or Bournemouth. I think it's too hard to say which one.
I think Bournemouth might shoot up. I know because they have got a decent team on paper, but they just can't seem to let them play together. They don't seem to gel, do they, on the pitch? But when you look at them, they have got a good side, and I think they might have enough quality there. Whereas West Ham, they've got individuals, but they haven't got enough in those other positions, have they? Really, they've got a few stand-up players like Felipe Anderson, but then everywhere else they're just very average.
Graham Potter is a manager I really like. I think he's done good stuff with Brighton this season. They're down there at the moment. James, do you think they've got enough to survive, or do you think they're going to pay the price for playing good football?
No, I think they've got enough in them. They do play good football. They play it well as well. They haven't got the personnel to, obviously challenge higher up the table yet. But obviously this summer, I think the board would have seen enough from them, seen that they have got a team that's got a good base that can play it. So with a few additions, which we know they haven't recruited very well in the past, they always seem to sort of have a bit of a nightmare in the transfer market. But I think it'll be enough for them to sort of greenlight a few good signings, a few technical players, and they could be challenging for, that sort of 11th, 10th place next season, if they can bring in the right personnel, because Graham Potter's a very good manager.
Absolutely, I think so too. Thanks for this, James. It's been good looking at that, and hopefully the season is completed however possible. I can't wait to see Jordan Henderson lifting that title, and I'm really, really hoping, I'm clinging on to the hope that this season will be completed and that we can see that. James, thank you as always, and we shall see you all tomorrow for part 3 of the Premier League players to watch. Cheers.